probably post this to her subreddit. And if you came to this review from there, I'm sorry we were like slightly negative on the album. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode, none regardless. None regardless? That's not a word. That was a double negative. Anyway. Hello and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society podcast, where we're ticking all the boxes and bringing a much-needed minority perspective to pop culture discourse.
You were speed running it there, but you really slowed it down in the second half.
Yeah, I'm Josh. My pronouns are he and him, and I lead the music discussions.
I'm Matty. My pronouns are she and her, and I lead the film discussions.
Today we're talking about Rico Nasty's Nightmare Vacation. Is that what it's called? Nightmare Vacation, right?
Yes, that is the
I never
album
get
we're
used to this
reviewing.
album title. It's just the weirdest album title in my mind for like Rico Nasty. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Nightmare Vacation. It sounds like a Cramps album or something. Anyway, maybe like the B-52s. And now I'm gonna turn the tables, Maddie. I'm gonna put you in the hot seat.
Okay.
I picked this album really more so because I was really curious as to how you'd feel about it, because even before it came out, because I remember when iPhone dropped. How long ago was that? Was that in October?
Yeah, I believe so.
When iPhone dropped, I remember you having like a visceral reaction to it.
I was
Would
so
you like to
upset.
explain to the audience?
So, the Rico Nasty singles that had been releasing up until I think it was just one at that point. It was either a disappointing or had been a couple of disappointing singles. But Dylan Brady and Rico Nasty have done amazing work together in the past with the ringtone remix on 1000 Gex in the Tree of Clues, which was one of my favorite albums of last year. So I was kind of thinking that, okay, because I was getting kind of concerned about how good the new Rico Nasty project would be, and I'm gonna get on to like my pre-established views of Rico Nasty in a minute because that's important for my review. But I was getting kind of worried about how good the Rico Nasty project was going to be, that being Nightmare Vacation. But I thought, Dylan Brady, Rico Nasty, it's going to be great. And it came out, and it was just this really, like, lame, really... I felt the biggest problem was it was just incredibly underdeveloped.
You're talking about the iPhone single, right?
The iPhone single, yeah. It just really, like, lacked any distinguishing personality beyond it just being kind of Dylan Brady's production. Whereas a song like Claws that he produced for Charlie XCX is so like cute and charming and fits into her personality really well, whereas this just kind of felt like auto-tune for auto-tune's sake and like extremely distorted synths because it's Dylan Brady, that kind of thing. And I was really unimpressed. So that kind of set the tone, I think, for how I felt the new Rico Nasty album was coming along. And yeah, so I guess that's why iPhone was so frustrating for me, because like I really like Rico Nasty, which I'll get more onto in a second. But yeah.
Yeah, and I've been a big fan of her since I said like 2018. Back when all we had was the Nasty mixtape. And I remember it was the songs Back at B Word and Trust Issues. Those
Yeah,
those are what got me into her music. Amazing, tremendous songs. And when I tried out Nasty, the full album, yeah, I found it really hit or miss. So I was like, she's not there yet, but then there's the potential here. And then Anger Management came out next year. Her collab album with Kenny Beats.
Yeah.
Completely blew me out of the water. Kind of like Kenny Beats, I think, is an incredibly like versatile producer who, like, when he makes a beat for someone, it never feels like he's coming over and taking over the whole aesthetic. The same way that you felt that sometimes that happens with Dylan Brady. Like the artist
Yeah,
can like lose himself in Dylan Brady's aesthetic. I feel like Kenny Beats like perfectly like enunciates, like emphasizes what makes Rico Nasty great and like really brought it out. So
I
I just think
completely
that project
agree.
is like near perfect. So coming into this, I was a bit trepidatious because it felt like she was really leaning heavy into like that trap metal hardcore style in Anger Management, and this was felt like a complete pivot. Like it felt like she was
Yeah,
going way more into pop rap and more conventional trap sounds. I was a bit hesitant going into it.
yeah. So I think I'll just go into what I thought, but I just to give a little more context, kind of just like Josh did. Yeah, I think Anger Management was like an amazing record, but again, like I mean, it stands on its own, but at the same time, it was only 20 minutes, and I was still waiting for like a full length Rico Nasty album for her to really finally just implant herself into the scene. Despite how much I loved Anger Management, and then with that in mind, I'm gonna sound very negative in the next couple of minutes, but I don't like hate this album, but it's just the reason I wanted to give that context is because that's why I'm going to sound so negative, because I found this album basically just as disappointing as I thought I would, if that makes sense. It's difficult for me to talk about specific songs and why I dislike those specific songs, because I really feel like this is an album of 2 minute vignettes that are all underdeveloped, that I don't really think could be developed into interesting trap songs, because the ideas on here aren't very original or interesting. Uh, it's incredibly hard for me to think of the sound of songs off the top of my head because they all blur into each other so much. Uh, it's it's so disappointing. Because I was listening to this album and I was just waiting for a song to blow me away the same way that anything off of Anger Management did, and truthfully, none of it did. I was even excited to hear the song iPhone on track 4 because I felt like it was the first song on the album that had any personality, if I'm honest. And then once that song was over, actually, I do enjoy Shut the Fuck Up. But when that song was over, when those songs were over, it was a long time before I heard any again. And yeah, so I don't know. I just found this such a really disappointing album, and kind of the implication that comes with it is sort of like concerning, I guess, because you know, good or bad, this was Rico Nasty's statement of like, this is me and as an artist. I kind of don't really fuck with the whole like, oh, this isn't an album, it's a quote unquote mixtape thing, because like at the I it's an
This
album like,
isn't. This is an album, by the way.
yeah, no, absolutely. And like,
Okay.
but to kind of go with that wording that people do use, that Rico Nasty wasn't describing this as the mixtape. This was her first time describing something, as an album. This is her coming forward as an artist, and it was really disappointing. And so I feel like I've kind of lost faith in someone I was really excited to see where they would go. So yeah, those are my opening thoughts on the album.
Yeah, it was. Hmm. I'm a bit more positive on the album than Matthias.
Mm-hmm.
But my basic opinion on this album, not that my opinion is basic, but just fundamental opinion I have is that like it feels very similar to Nasty, the mixtape from 2018, which I found like I was like, okay, this is like a decent pop rap album, but I'm looking forward to doing something crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. This feels like a more polished, refined version of Nasty, where it's kind of like hit or miss pop rap. Except here, the bass the base level like quality of the album is markedly improved. Like she's doing all the stuff much better,
Okay.
but it doesn't have the distinct and like incredibly captivating character of of what she did with Kenny Beats last year and
Yeah.
some of her early breakthrough singles. It was a strange situation where Nasty I kind of thought was good, in terms of like she's an early artist. This is her first
Yeah.
kind of major project, and this is pretty good for a first major project, But I can't wait to see where she goes. And this was like quite disappointing because I felt like she'd already hit this like legendary status in 2019, and this was like regressing a bit. Like even though
Yeah.
it's like markedly better than Nasty, kind of on like a relative scale, I think they're kind of on the same level because I expect more from her now. And I feel like I'm getting a more refined version of what came before. And what I think this album really struggles with is when Rico Nasty talks in the Genius video about iPhone, which I was watching right before we started recording, as well as in like the promotional material for this album, talks a lot about wanting to like introduce her fans to a new side of herself and like transition into making different kind of
Yeah.
music. I wanted to be able to be more vulnerable, or show every part of her personality in a more of just show the aggressive side of her personality, but like more vulnerable side too. And I felt like this felt like really awkward on this album because it felt like there were songs like iPhone and Pussy Poppin', which were like different to what Rico Nasty has done before for sure. But there's so much stuff that is like bygones from that old era. Like you even have a remix of Smack a B, which came out years ago, and the original
Yeah.
version as a bonus track, and songs like "Oh for Real," which I really like, but it just feels incoherent.
It's not
And
this new personality she's talking about.
yeah, this album feels gangly and teenage. It feels
Yeah,
transitional. It feels awkward.
I
And
completely agree.
if I'm honest, I really liked iPhone. When I heard it on the album, it was my first time actually hearing iPhone because I saved it for the album. I really enjoyed it. I think it's like really fun, really playful, really cutesy. I love the how heavy the and like almost like cheap the bass is. I love some of her girlish vocal inflections. Like I think my phone is tapped. I think my phone is tapped. Like I think it's really cute, and I would have been completely happy with a whole album of like very cutesy but like vaguely
Yeah.
aggressive stuff like that. I'm surprised that I was still disappointed by this, even though I'm a defender of iPhone.
No, definitely. I think what's just struck me most about what you said was her like trying to transition into this new personality, because like that was my main concern with this album, was like her just kind of getting to a place of artistic complacency now that she's kind of made it with the individualistic stuff she used to make before. And it's like, it's kind of like we talked about with translating, like going when an artist goes from acoustic or to like electronic, in when we talked about Car Seat Headrest, like no, not Car Seat Headrest, Richard Dawson.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, it's fine, you just have to replace it with something that is still like artistically interesting to you, something unique
I
to
think that
you.
does apply to the new coffee headrest.
Yeah, definitely. You just like, you're allowed to change. You just need to still be bringing something to the table. The thing you're bringing to the table can't just be the new personality, because you have to be an artist. You have to bring something unique. And previously, what Rico Nasty brought was like an incredibly powerfully female, aggressive voice to the scene. And without that on this album, I mean, it does still show up, but when that's not here on this album, and even when it does show up, it's just incredibly lackluster.
What's interesting is lots of the tracks at the beginning you'll hear Buddha bless this beat. And Buddha Bless is a producer who's worked a lot with people like 2 Chainz and Migos, Paris. They're like pop trap type production, and I think you can definitely feel like sometimes Rico drowns under the influence of the producers she gets on the tracks, the features.
Yeah.
Like on this album, the Armane song which I like. I think it's like a
Yeah,
fine pop rap song. Sounds like an Armane song featuring Rico.
that's exactly
And the
exactly
same goes for
right.
the Gucci Mane song, Don't Like Me. It sounds like a good Gucci Mane song featuring Rico. And it's
It's
odd to me.
yeah. It sounds like he brought her along to do the hook for her, and I think that's what's the most disappointing thing about this album is that it feels like it's so strange to see Rico struggling to put her personality forward, given that it's Rico Nasty, and also the kind of more personal stuff that she was talking about. I feel like we got on Anger Management, like
Agreed.
again, is an amazing closer to that album, and I love particularly like her singing voice on that song. I think Kenny did a really great job on the production of that track, but it's like, oh, everything about that song is so warm and tender, but also like there's a sense of urgency around like not wanting to lose what everything she's gained. And
Yeah.
so I just think, why isn't that here? Like you
I think
mastered this new sound that you were trying to do on that song, and all you've got now are these like really bland pop trap sounds without any of the lavishness that makes that genre fun.
I don't know if it was Kenny Beats that like offered this like more cohesive feeling.
Mm.
Anger Management, a very strong concept album in the sense that is basically an adult swim themed therapy session.
Yeah.
Starts off extremely angry and gradually breaks down into like more introspection and like deconstructing the anger.
Yeah.
The point where it ends with like, see, don't you feel so much better now? Kind of like as if she's gotten it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought of Rico as kind of this caricature of an angry person. I always felt like her music was quite personal.
Mm-hmm.
And in this album, very strange because if I'm honest, I feel like where she is currently at emotionally, artistically, is probably the iPhone type stuff. I think I think the personal stuff she's going through now is trying to get out of that trust issues mindset. Like iPhone is explicitly the metaphor of that song is about opening yourself up to someone, letting someone into your iPhone, the most letting someone into like the most private thing you could possibly have, your phone, right? I feel like that like vulnerability, it would have been really interesting to get an album that was confidently about Rico exploring vulnerability and that side of her personality. And I would have really enjoyed that. But where this album lacks cohesion is I still feel like she's trying to both win over new fans, kind of this new poppy style, but also please old fans by having songs like Let It Out and STFU and Oh For Real, which I think are good songs, but don't cohesively fit the tone of the album. And it feels like in trying to please everyone, you get kind of a bland product.
That's exactly how I feel. And because I agree, I think artistically, like, and as a person, it seems like she's at a place where she's like ready to collaborate with people like 100 Gex and kind of honestly a lot of people in the PC music world in the kind of unabashed emotionality of that scene, like, and songs like iPhone really show that. And so it is really weird as a listener when it does just feel like there's a lot of songs on here that are just made to blow up on TikTok and like to kind of just appeal to new fans. And it's quite upsetting because you end up thinking about kind of the album that could have been, where she actually does explore the things she was talking about. Because I'm going to be honest, I like, if she was trying to explore the more vulnerable aspects of her personality, I think she like completely failed. I'm going to be honest, because like without knowing that going into this album, I kind of got very little sense of her trying to do that, if that makes sense. So
I see what you mean, but as someone who like in 2018, Rico was this scary woman who shouted at me about like how she's so happy she didn't have to smack another woman today. And like hearing her sing about like having a boy around her hip like a Tamagotchi, like wow, she's really opening herself up to me. So I can see why it came off to you, like that for you, but for me it was just so surreal and strange to hear her like get feely and like about her emotions in the same way it felt strange on the 100 Gex remix album that she had a verse on. I was like, wow, is Rico really talking about her feelings? Like, it must have been difficult. Like, she's really opening up. But I see what you mean.
Yeah, no, and again, like, I think that's, like, not to discredit that at all, because I think that is totally, like, valid. I think that is completely fair. Valid, that word is ruined. Like, I just think we've heard that before and far more interesting. Like, if I want to hear vulnerable Rico Nasty, I'm going to go back to Anger Management, and I'm going to go back to the Ringtone remix. It is just, like... It's not that she's doing it. It's not that she's being more vulnerable, like, and I'm not happy with how vulnerable she's being, because, like, even I'm, like, so overwhelmed listening to Ringtone and just how not only emotionally distinct she's being there, but how, like, unique a Rico Nasty performance that is, and how much that reflects on how comfortable and confident she's gotten with her own artistry as of late. But then, yeah, so it's really hard for me to listen to an album like this and just be like, well, where did that go? Like, you were so bold and brave and, like, with like, your emotionality in your music, not even really on just what you're talking about, but in the performance of it. Whereas here, it's just... other than iPhone, I was really unimpressed with the performative aspects of this album. So yeah.
Are you ready to move on to favorite and least favorite track?
I am.
I'll start. Before I say my favorite tracks, I will say a side note about the Smack a B-Word remix. It was very fun. I really like PP Cocaine's verse on that song.
Yeah, epic. It
is
actually
one
epic.
of the craziest vocal performances I've heard in recent memory. And yes, we like to speak in hyperbolic terms on this podcast. It's the part where she's like, I'll run you over in my fucking Tesla truck, kill these hoes, stab these hoes, B-word, pop these hoes, smack these hoes. Like, holy shit. It's so... but she's rapping in, like, Bubbles' voice from, like, the Powerpuff Girls. And it's, like, the most aggressive shit I've ever heard.
I love her.
Oh, another thing before I go into favorite tracks is, I feel like Trippie Redd is doing, like, a really weird Lil Uzi Vert impression on Loser.
I thought the same thing.
The same vibe?
Yeah. It was like, oh, what's this? This wasn't expecting when I saw this coming up on the track list. Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to the Mean Girls reference on Loser.
Relatable.
Loser, get in. As someone who watched Mean Girls in the past 2 weeks, that is relatable. My least favorite track is one of the lead singles from the album, actually.
Yeah.
And I just, for me, I'm completely down with, like, the sentiments behind this song about, you know, be confident, my fellow women, and own who you are. And that's what she's saying, you know. Lines about getting brand new Crocs and just vibing with them. Don't be ashamed of you. Yeah. But I find the beat really meandering and drab, and I also find the chorus really, like, obnoxious and, like, not fun or catchy. Just kind of very... Whenever it comes on, I'm like, oh, this is fucking...
There's something so annoying about it. There's something just, like, lazy sounding and just kind of, like... It's do you know what it is? Yeah, it's the confidence of it mixed with just how simplistic and boring it actually is. Because it's like the lyrical matter of, like, owning it and the kind of, what's the word, disaffected inflection she kind of sings it with really doesn't go well with how boring a hook it is, because not only is the hook really disappointing, but the instrumental is just so bland that it's like, how is this a song about, like, being your full confident self, and it just sounds this boring? So I know completely why you would call this obnoxious. Yes,
it didn't work for me. Moving on to my favorite tracks. no particular order.
Yeah.
Yep, iPhone. I really enjoy iPhone. I stated in the episode why I really enjoy iPhone. Um, a cute, fun, playful track, an aesthetic that I think really worked for this like new Rico Nasty we're getting. Um, I think that bridge again is incredible. About I think my phone is tapped. My phone is tapped. I like the slight anxiety in this song about and maybe I'm extrapolating. Like with that, I think my phone is tapped a bit. There's like an anxiety of like it feels unsafe to open myself up to someone new because I have trust issues. I've been hurt before. Um, but there's also like a thrill, like it's exhilarating and it's like it's sugary. It is for songs really sugary
Mm-hmm.
and addicting in my opinion. I just think like her mission statement really, I really like felt it. Like I really got it. It really resonated with me. I really enjoyed the song. Next up is "Let It Out." I the another song produced by Dylan Brady. It's credited to 100 Gex.
Oh.
So I don't know if Laura was also on production here.
I think that means she probably would have been, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps. But Jesus fucking Christ, that dirty bass on the "Let It Out" that just like rumbles throughout the track is so disgusting in like the best way. I
Yeah.
fucking love it. Um, and I think "Let It Out" does what Own It is trying to do, but better in terms of like whole anger management theme in her music. Of like, let it out, just let it
Mm-hmm.
out. Don't be shy, let it out. If you want to rage, go for it. Throw the fade. I'm like, oh, like that. That got me hyped.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
got me looking at the world a bit different. You know what I'm saying? All right, and then my next favorite track is "Oh for Real." Um, I wasn't like wildly impressed with when it came out as a single. Another Dylan Brady song. I'm sorry, I've just picked all the 100 Gex tracks.
yeah.
I wasn't super hyped about it when it came out as a single because I was like, I feel like this is trying to go for like the trust issue thing. But whereas whenever I listen to Trust Issues, I legit like I sweat like every time I listen to it, like I have a physical reaction to that song. I
Mm.
wasn't as moved by "Oh For Real." When the album actually came out and I looked at the track list and I was like, yeah, "Oh For Real" is one of the best tracks on the album. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I like shit like Girl Scouts a lot as well. That's another cool song. But "Oh For Real." Yeah, I think it's a very strong hook, like a very well written trap song, in my opinion. And I'm a bit attached to it because I attached it to a memory. Sometimes we attach music to memories and it heightens the music. It's an incredibly subjective opinion that I'm about to give. I was playing Dark Souls 2 while I was listening to this album, like preparing for this review.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on one of the hardest Dark Souls bosses, a legendary boss called the Fume Knight. Have you seen images of the Fume Knight, Matty?
I haven't seen images of the Fume Night. I'm gonna
If
look
you
at them
follow
right
Dark Souls
now.
meme pages, you will see so much Fume Knight shit. In the same way that Dark Souls fans don't shut up about Artorias, Fume Knight is one of the Dark Souls
God,
bosses,
that
right?
looks horrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, he's this big fucker with like a huge black like lava sword that he infuses
Yeah.
dark magic halfway through the fight, and then like a short sword, and it's really tough. Like it's really difficult to fight this guy. Like Dark Souls knows when a boss is called the hardest boss in a Dark Souls game,
Some
it's
real
pretty
fucking
tough.
shit.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. So that euphoric moment when after like 2 hours of memorizing this guy's moveset, I was able to like perfectly dodge everything they was doing.
Yeah.
Every time I dodge, I'd be like, "Oh for real? Oh for real? Oh for real?" And I get hit, and it made me feel so good, so empowered in a way that I think
Yeah.
Rico always meant for her music to feel empowering. I may have not been the target demographic that she was trying to empower. In that moment, like reciting the words of the song, actually, I just felt so good about myself.
And that's just the
Is that
wonders of music. It might not have
exactly
been for that, but hey, that's how it ended up.
for real? Like that shit. She was hype. So that's why "Overall" is my third favorite track. And overall, I give this album a weak recommend. I think it's a weird one because I think I'd recommend this like decently as just a pop rap album. I'd be like, if you want some pop rap, I personally think there's lots of very fun, enjoyable.
Mm.
Like, I think "Don't Like Me" is a really fun song. I think "Girl Scouts" is really fun. I love the metaphor of like women shooting up your house like Girl Scouts. I think the Smack a B Word remix is really good. Pussy Poppin'. I don't really talk like this. I know, like some really like fun girlish moments which really work for me. I think a Rico Nasty album. It was a big letdown, and I do kind of expect more from her. So yeah, weak recommend. How about you, Matty?
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna start off with my least favorite track, like Josh did, and that's "Don't Like Me." I really find this song quite irritating, specifically like just how like boring it is. Like it just feels like there's very little song actually here. They came up with a hook, and then I think they were like, "Oh, we have to structure a song around this." Nah, we'll just leave it. We'll just kind of amble around for a couple of seconds before we go right back into repeating the hook. And
Are
that's
you
all
telling
the
me?
song is.
Got it on
Mm.
cam as a recap. When he hit this pussy, he relapsed. When he hit this pussy, it relapsed. You don't feel anything.
I don't feel anything. It's just boring. It's just boring. Like I expect so much more. You know, and I don't mean lyrically. I'm not like trying to get like. I just mean like delivery, production, and also like vocal production specifically. Like there should just be so much more impact on the second track of a Rico Nasty song than some boring ass Gucci Mane and Don Toliver feature. Like, what is this song? It's so nothing.
It
It's
sounds
just
like
nothing.
it sounds like Mario Kart Trap, and
It
I
just
love how cheap the single
yeah.
cover is of like her with her finger pointing at her mouth with blue hair with a rainbow in the background.
Dude, it sounds like just if you were like, give me a soft pop trap song, put it in the generator, get it out the generator. This is the song you would get. It is so nothing. Anyway, to get more positive, so I ended up like kind of coming around on iPhone because I think it's one of the few songs here that actually has some personality in the end. Uh, I do know what you mean, Josh. Like there is like the cutesy stuff that I mentioned kind of from the ringtone remix is definitely here. I don't find it nearly as charming, and I would honestly just love some more unabashed, like glorious Rico Nasty singing. But this is ultimately really quite fun and light-hearted and a real like necessary injection of personality into this album. Uh, Next up, again, yeah, Oh For Real. Oh For Real, it just has an amazing synergy between the instrumental and Rico's rapping. Like, it really feels like the hook was crafted, no, the beat rather was crafted for this hook. Whereas on the rest of this album, I really feel like the beats and the rapping are just kind of two parallel things that never really meet, and they never really need to meet because they're both so lackluster that like it's never gonna have any interesting interactions when they do. Whereas in Oh For Real, like there's something about how the bass bumps around Rico Nasty's yelling at you, and it's just incredibly infectious. I really like this song. And finally, Shut the Fuck Up was like, I don't know, it felt like a really self-indulgent just act or old school Rico Nasty act where there really isn't a lot going on, but there's this just like disaffected attitude going on where she's just screaming at you to shut the fuck up, and it is really fun and like and lighthearted, and I don't know, the beat actually does feel like it's imbuing what she's doing. It's kind of a bit, it's still subdued like a lot of the other beats on this album, but that's kind of okay when you have such a confident display from Rico, which I do feel like is in the minority on this album. So
on STFU before we move on. I love like the kind of delayed delivery of the hook.
Yes,
Like the
yeah.
shut the fuck up.
Up.
Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up. Like
Up.
it sounds like when someone's really drunk and they're just so sick of your shit, and their words are kind of coming out slow, but you can tell, how
How just
viciously they hate
angry
you in
they
this
are.
moment. And
Yeah.
also the line, got that B word on all fours, like she's about to take a piss.
That's
That's
fucked.
amazing
Yeah. That's a
lyricism.
very
Okay,
vivid
that's a
imagery.
very vivid image. That's what I wanted to say.
No worries. Yeah, so to wrap up, I give this album a decent not recommend. We've talked recently about like taking art where it's at, and I'm taking Rico Nasty where she's at. She is better than this, and I think everything that she's tried to do on this album, she's done better somewhere else. Smack a Bitch is a nice show up here. Uh, but to be honest, I've listed some good favorite tracks, but there's very little that will ever keep me coming back to this album. Like, even my favorite tracks, I would choose a number of Rico Nasty songs from other projects that I listened to before those ones. And that's really disappointing. And I think it's ultimately for the reasons we discussed in this review. Just complete artistic, like, misdirection, and misdirection in the sense that there are about 3 different ways she could have gone with this album, and for some reason, or some of them not as interesting as each other, and she chose all of them, and so the result is something with some decent moments, but ultimately something incredibly bland that I think you can find anywhere else. A lot of the time, I think there are exceptions with this on my favorite tracks and on the Smack a Bitch remix, which I'm not including in my favorite tracks because it is a remix.
It is really weird hearing like a 2018 song on this album. Like it just feels like
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like this is
I
like
don't
part of
know
the
how I
album.
feel about that.
This is a song I liked when I was 18.
Yeah,
Like it's
exactly.
really
Like
yeah.
I
I love it
I
still, obviously, but yeah.
that's the thing. I really like it independently as a remix, but I'm like, this is your first album, and with how empty and uninspired the rest of this album feels, it really just does come across quite lazy and padding, if I'm honest, to add just an old song of yours and a remix onto the end, because 39 minutes is a decent album length, but without it, it'd be like 35, and then it really starts looking less necessary as an album. So yeah, decent or recommend on this, and I promise you, that that wasn't easy. Like I'm really sad about
I can't
having to say
believe
that.
Matty hates Rico Nasty.
No, I can't believe it either. No, I'm joking. But
Um,
yeah.
like I'm so bummed out that like house parties aren't happening anymore. Because 100%, I would play "Don't Like Me" at every single party I'm at with you to
To
like haze
torture
you
me.
into gaining some weird affection for the song.
Yeah, just from like positive associations. God damn you. I despise you.
Goalkeeper. That's just
Bad
crazy,
song.
bro.
Bad song.
So funny that I really enjoyed your least favorite track.
hmm
I'm listening to it right now. Like this shit slaps. Anyway, okay. That's the Rico Nasty review.
So next week we're going to be talking about Pressburger and Powell's classic Black Narcissus. I realized that we have a sort of gaping hole in our older film discussions of, well, older films and old films in general. And Pressburger and Powell are 2 masterful directors. I think they're most known for The Red Shoes, which is an incredible film. Absolutely spellbinding. The way that film uses color is like, I know that's just not saying anything new, but oh my god, gorgeous movie. And I want to see more of them, and I want to talk about more of them. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about Black Narcissus.
I'm going into this with like my only knowledge of Black Narcissus is it was a lyric in the One Lana Del Rey song. I panically thought, oh
Oh
God, is Lana Del
yeah.
Rey racist? What the fuck's going on? Then I was like, no way, she's definitely not racist. And then she went on a huge rant about how like it's so unfair that black women get to talk about sexuality, but me, the oppressed
Oh
white
my
woman, can't.
god.
And I was like, oh, Lana, you did it again. You alienated me.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so you weren't racist, but you were. Nice. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be talking about next week.
Very cool.
Do sign off, you son of a bitch.
I'll do it when I do it. Like, you need to be patient. Thank you for listening, everyone. Yeah, catch us next week with our Black Narcissist review. And keep it nasty. Keep it nasty at home. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you very much for listening. Bye.
The sign off is perfect. We should end with your voice last every time.